friends, it's Jessie here. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, well, welcome. I just wrapped up my paycheck #1 closeout video. That video is already posted here on my channel, so if you missed it, make sure you go back and check it out. For now, I'm gonna turn the page and we are gonna talk about paycheck #2. Paycheck 1 was a little bit rocky, but we made it through the week and I'm ready to set up for week #2. And the dates for week #2 are a little bit off because Labor Day pushed my paycheck back a day. So the paycheck date is actually September 4th, and we're gonna take this budget from September 4th through September 9th. So we got one last day to work with, which I don't anticipate changing my budget too much. You guys know I can always manage to spend a ton of money. So let's talk about it. I'm gonna flip this over. This is my paycheck budget worksheet. It is available on my Etsy shop, or if you want to join my channel membership at the Budget Buddy tier, you get access to this paycheck budget as well as the 2-page hybrid budget as one of your member perks. So if you ever wanted to try out paycheck budgeting, you like the way this paycheck looks, you think paycheck budget worksheet looks, you think it might work for you, check it out. I got a little tongue-tied there, but we made it through. All right, let's talk about the amount we are budgeting today. In my last couple of videos, I've talked about how I've been struggling a teeny tiny bit trying to make everything work out because I've been overspending in some categories and then having to pull money out of long-term savings to make the ends meet, which is fine for now because I have that long-term savings, but someday I'm going to be spending that long-term savings on whatever it is I'm saving for, right? So I don't want to rely on my long-term spending to make everything work. I said long-term spending. You guys, very tongue-tied today. I had to do my little intro on the last video I filmed 3 times before I managed to get it out. I think I'm just super excited because the weather here is finally breaking and it's cooled down a little bit. There's a little bit of fall in the air. I know that it's fake fall and we're gonna be right back up to 90 degrees probably next week, but I have my windows open. Everything has been going well, so I'm just a little bit excited, I guess, to be filming, and my mouth outruns my brain. What was I saying? Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm a mess. So my process when I get my paycheck is I take money right off the top of that paycheck to put into my long-term savings account. And then I pay some bills that I kind of keep private and don't talk about here on the internet. I do whatever I need to do, and then whatever's left, that's the amount that I budget with you all here. What I've decided to do for this week, and possibly moving forward, is take a little bit less off the top to put into long-term savings and funnel it through my paycheck budget here instead, because if I am coming to the end of my paycheck budget, running out of money, and then digging into the long-term savings anyway, it just makes more sense to budget more here. So instead of $1,500 like I have been doing, I'm gonna do $1,600 this week. We will see how that works out. That's the plan. I also raised my fixed expenses in September a little bit. The amount of money that I'm setting aside for next month's bills, I raised a little bit. So this will just help ease that, give me a little bit more of a buffer, a little bit more money to work with. It means $100 less into my long-term savings, but if I'm pulling money out of long-term savings anyway, it's, you know, like 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's the same thing. So $1,600 is where I am starting this paycheck budget. Let's talk about my fixed expenses. It's the same as every single week. I got us a month ahead on our bills. Highly recommend doing that if you can, by the way. It works amazingly well for me. So all of my September bills are being paid with money I saved in August. Now that September's here, I'm saving money for October's bills. So I'm gonna put $750 aside for October's bills. And that's it for our fixed expenses. So the total here is $750. Pretty easy peasy. That part of my budget doesn't really change. Why change it if it's working for me? Maybe this type of system wouldn't work for you. That's totally fine, you guys. I share my budget here for motivation and for accountability, not as a step-by-step guide on how to budget, because everybody's finances are different. Personal finance is personal. What I do works best for me. It may not work for you. So find what works for you, make it work with your income, with your budget. The most important thing is just sitting down with your budget, whether it be on a weekly basis or a monthly basis or even a daily basis if that's what works for you. But crunch the numbers, figure out ways to, put money into savings if that's your goal, to pay debt if that's your goal, to invest, whatever your goals are. Sitting down with your budget, seeing where you can cut costs is the way to go. So doesn't matter if you do your budget the same way I do. What matters is that you budget. So that's my fixed expenses. Let's talk about my variable expenses. I know for sure that most of you aren't doing things the way that I do because most of you are spending way less on food. All of our money goes to food every single week. Groceries, my budget's crazy high. Eating out, my budget's crazy high. We're in a season of life right now where we are super busy. We're relying on convenience foods. We're relying on drive-thrus. Someday I'm going to look back on this stage of my life and I'm going to miss it with running back and forth to soccer games and tournaments and working full-time and, going camping on the weekends. Like, all of this is temporary. It's not going to be like this forever. So if we're spending a little bit more on groceries and eating out, that's okay. Someday I'm going to miss this. Okay? For groceries, I'm going to budget $300. About $300 a week is what it takes to feed my family of 4. We're in Southeast Michigan. Honestly, I think we're in a lower cost of living state. I mean, obviously we're not New York, we're not California. And yet still it cost me about $300 a week for groceries lately. So I've got myself, my husband, a grown son who lives with me, plus a 16-year-old boy who eats all 3 of us under the table. So yeah, we eat a lot. So $300 is what works for us. And then $150 in eating out. Last but not least, we have spending, and I budget $50 a week for spending on anything that doesn't fall into these other 2 categories. So that's a total of $500. I don't need my calculator to add those numbers. Pretty much the same every week. It doesn't really change. Sometimes I will lower the grocery budget and raise the eating out budget. Sometimes I'll raise the spending budget and lower the others, but it's pretty much always $500 a week in variable spending. Let's talk about the sinking funds section. This is where I put the money for my savings challenges. If you've never seen one of my videos, hi, welcome. I hope you will subscribe. I like to do savings challenges to help me save money for short-term savings, aka sinking funds. It makes the budget process fun to play games, to film videos for you, and that's important because if it's not fun, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to budget $200 for those savings challenges. That's what I like to put into them each week. Someday, I hope that I'll be able to do more, but this is what's been working for me, so we're going to stick with this. I am going to write in a little extra line, however, because sometimes at the end of the week, I don't spend all my variable money. And if I have money left over, I like to put it here into savings instead of just either rolling it over or spending it on whatever. So I'm not going to budget for this, but I will have the line there in case at the end of the week I have some actual money left. And pretty much every week since I started Paycheck budgeting, I've had a little bit of something extra. Sometimes it's only a couple bucks, but every penny adds up. $200 total for this section. Extra debt, we are still crossing out because my credit cards are still sitting at a zero balance. No credit card debt currently. That's amazing. We do use credit cards. We pay them off. We don't carry balances on them. Someday I may carry a balance, and so I keep this extra debt section just in case. But so far so good. We've managed to stay credit card debt free. Let's sum up here for totals. We had $1,600 at the start. $750 comes off the top of that for fixed expenses. Let me pull in my calculator here. $500 for variable. $200 for sinking funds. Nothing to extra debt. That means I have a buffer of $150. That makes me feel way better. Last week, if you watched my budget video, you know that we only had a $50 buffer, and that makes me nervous because you guys know I like to overspend. If I don't overspend and this buffer remains in my account, that's great. It'll eventually go into long-term savings. But if I overspend, which I often do, I like to have a little bit of a cushion in my account. So there's my cushion, and there is my paycheck budget. Pretty short and sweet. Not a lot of change, just a little bit of extra money, a little bit of wiggle room. Yeah, so that's it, you guys. If you made it all the way to the end, leave me a flower emoji so that I know you made it all the way to the end and you're a real one. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys real soon for another video. Bye!